After the Bihar caste census, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi tweeted welcoming the census and saying that there should be greater representation for OBCs, both in higher education and in jobs. He often cites how there are only 3 secretaries to the government of India who are OBC out of a total pool of more than 90. In fact, he came up with the slogan, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq. The Prime Minister on the campaign trail has challenged this idea of majoritarianism, rising from that slogan, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, which the Congress has now made a centerpiece for its 2024 bid. The Prime Minister campaigning in Telangana a couple of nights ago, he has asked, what does this actually mean? This whole slogan of Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, which means your representation will be as much as your population. What does that mean, for example, for the southern states who have historically done well on population control, especially in the context of the North Indian states or relative to North Indian states? So that means when the next delimitation happens, which is slated for 2026, the southern states, which did well on population control, will tend to lose seats in the Lok Sabha. And that delimitation is not too far away. It's just 3 years away. It's scheduled for 2026. Prime Minister Modi has red flagged the census debate by countering it with the delimitation question. Now, remember, the BJP is not that big a player in southern India. The Congress is. And if the Congress is going to lose seats in a critical area of this country, in a critical region of this country, how can it counter this whole dice of delimitation that's been thrown at them by Prime Minister Modi, particularly to counter the caste census and the slogan arising from the caste census, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq?
जब आप कहते हो जितनी आबादी उतना हक, इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अब कांग्रेस घोषणा करे, क्या आप अल्पसंख्यकों के विरोधी है क्या? कांग्रेस स्पष्ट करे, आप दक्षिण भारत के विरोधी है क्या? मैं सिद्ध करता हूं, उनकी ये नई सोच दक्षिण भारत के साथ घोर अन्याय करने वाली सोच है। ये नई सोच माइनॉरिटी के पीठ में भी छुरा भोंकने वाली सोच है। आजकल देश में अगले डिलिमिटेशन की चर्चा हो रही है। आपको मालूम है, 25 साल के बाद पार्लियामेंट की सीटें कितनी होगी, कौन सी क्या होगी, इसका निर्णय जुडिशरी करती है। और उसके कारण जहां जनसंख्या कम है, उसकी सीटें कम हो जाती है, जहां जनसंख्या ज्यादा है, उनकी सीटें बढ़ जाती है। अब हमारे दक्षिण भारत के सभी राज्यों ने जनसंख्या वृद्धि को रोकने में बहुत बड़ी देश की मदद की है। अब कांग्रेस का नारा ऐसा है कि जिसकी जितनी आबादी उतना उसका हक। इसका मतलब अब कांग्रेस दक्षिण भारत के संसद सदस्यों की संख्या कम करने का नाटक करने जा रही है, खेल खेलने जा रही है। क्या दक्षिण भारत इसको स्वीकार करेगा? क्या दक्षिण भारत कांग्रेस की चाल को स्वीकार करेगा? क्या दक्षिण भारत कांग्रेस को माफ करेगा? इसी विषय पर मैं कांग्रेस के नेताओं को साफ कहता हूं, देश को मूर्ख मत बनाओ, स्पष्ट करो क्या कारण है दक्षिण भारत के राज्यों को अन्याय करने के खेल खेले जा रहे हैं।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार वो आरक्षण विरोधी है, वो पिछड़े दलितों को उनका हक नहीं देना चाहती है। जितनी भी नौकरियां आ रही हैं उनमें पिछड़ों के साथ अन्याय हो रहा है, दलितों के साथ अन्याय हो रहा है। बिहार सरकार ने आज जाति जनगणना के आंकड़े जारी कर दिए हैं। समाजवादी पार्टी बिहार सरकार को बधाई देती है। आज बिहार के पिछड़े दलित, अल्पसंख्यक, अति पिछड़ों को उनकी संख्या पता चल चुकी है, उनको उनका हक मिल जाएगा। देश भर में पिछड़े दलित अल्पसंख्यकों को उनका हक कब मिलेगा? समाजवादी पार्टी भारतीय जनता पार्टी से इस सवाल को लगातार पूछती रहेगी।
कल से कांग्रेस ने एक अलग लाभ आरोपना शुरू कर दिया है। ये कांग्रेस के नेता कहते हैं जितनी आबादी उतना हक। मैं कहता हूं इस देश में अगर सबसे बड़ी कोई आबादी है तो वो आबादी गरीब है, और इसलिए मेरे लिए गरीब ही सबसे बड़ी आबादी है। भारत के पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री मनमोहन सिंह जी तो कहा करते थे कि देश के संसाधनों पर पहला हक माइनॉरिटी का है, अल्पसंख्यकों का है, और उसमें भी मुसलमानों का है। अब कांग्रेस कह रही है कि आबादी तय करेगी कि पहला हक किसका होगा। यानी क्या अब अल्पसंख्यकों का हक कांग्रेस कम करना चाहती है क्या?
हम तो हमेशा से इसके पक्षधर रहे हैं।
तो सरकार आई तो सर आप मध्य प्रदेश में भी कराएंगे क्या सर?
निश्चित, हम तो हमेशा से इसके पक्षधर रहे हैं।
तो सरकार आई तो सर आप मध्य प्रदेश में भी कराएंगे क्या सर?
निश्चित।
All right, we'll show you in some time the exact sort of numbering, as it were, from some analysis done by other media reports as to how much the number of seats in South India might go down, and how this is now flipping the whole debate on the Congress party. If you're saying Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, then are you also saying that the southern states are, as a result of population control, losing Lok Sabha seats is okay because it's in keeping with Jitni Abadi Utna Haq? But how did this whole delimitation exercise come about? Now, the Constitution, when it was adopted in 1950, it mandated proportional representation. So, as per the population, you had states getting allocated a certain number of seats. The exception was for small states and for union territories, which tend to have smaller populations. Now, in 1956, the total number of elected seats in the Lok Sabha was capped at 520. So, irrespective of the distribution, the total number of the Lok Sabha seats could not exceed 520. Subsequently, further amendments were made to the Constitution, which capped the number of seats at 552. Currently, the Lok Sabha has 543 seats. Article 82 mandates that the seat reallocation should happen after the census exercise every few years. Now, if you go on to see the last census that happened in 2011, in 1976, in fact, there was a freeze that was decided. This was in the middle of the emergency, mind you, that there will be a freeze in any delimitation exercise until the 2001 census, and that was in a bid to try and promote family planning. Then in 2001, when the Vajpayee Sarkar was in power, that freeze was extended by another 25 years because to promote further family planning. So 2026 is when the next delimitation is expected. The current seat provision in the Lok Sabha is based on the 1971 census. Currently, India's population is 1.4 billion. In 1971, it was about 400 million. So the point is, you cannot have a proportional representation system which is based on the 1971 census more than 50 years ago, because the demographics of the country, the demographics within regions and sub-regions has changed, and this also means that states which promoted population control and the benefits thereof are getting punished as a consequence of that. But there's also now the flip side in the states that are due to go to polls in the next few months, which is states like Madhya Pradesh, for example. Because of the Congress's OBC push, state leaders are pushing for more tickets for OBC candidates. In fact, there are 105 seats out of 230 in Madhya Pradesh where the upper castes play a dominant or a swing role. They can control which candidate wins. In those 105 seats, the Congress is expected to face some kind of rebellion because of its OBC push. The Brahmins are a dominant factor, and the Thakurs in 45, the Brahmins in 60 seats. By dominant, we mean swing factor. They are the vote bank that decides which way the wind blows or which candidate eventually wins. The Brahmins call the shots in the Vindhyachal region. And remember, this is a critical region. This is a swing region. In the last election where the Congress sort of got its nose past the BJP, it's in this region that they tended to do well. The Brahmin dominance, of course, in Chambal. Chambal has about 20 odd seats. Last time the Congress did extremely well in Chambal because of Jyotiraditya Scindia. Again, Mahakaushal is another area where the Congress did well in the last election. Both of these areas, it could potentially face some rebellion. 8 Thakurs in the Council of Ministers in the current Madhya Pradesh government. So which means when there is a pushback, how may that play out for the Congress because of its OBC push? And is the BJP in a position to try and take advantage of that? If I can try and see, before we go to the guess, if the South factor is not ready yet, but we will try and discuss this with our guests. The bare basic facts are that states like UP and Bihar will go from 80 seats to 94, Bihar from 40 seats to 50 plus, whereas states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala will lose anywhere between 5 to 10 seats. Let me now open this up to our guests. They're back on the wall. Dr. Ajay Alok is the national spokesperson of the BJP. Mohan Kumaramangalam is the spokesperson of the Congress Party. P. Gandhi is the spokesperson of the DMK. And Nalin Mehta, author and columnist, joining us. Mohan Kumaramangalam, let me start with you. So, obviously, the Congress Party for the Congress Party, the South is a big catchment area. Out of the 54 seats you won last time, I think more than 40 came from just the southern states alone. The Prime Minister has turned this whole slogan of Jitni Abadi Utna Haq on its head, saying, what about the southern states after delimitation? Are you okay if, because of the population control measures that the southern states instituted, they will tend to lose some seats? Therefore, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, lesser population in the southern states means lesser seats. Are you okay with that as a Congress Party?
I think Mr. Modi is deliberately conflating two completely distinct issues. On the one hand, we have an issue grounded in social justice, where historically oppressed backward communities are yet to find even a modicum of representation in the corridors of power that interface with citizens and make decisions regarding programs and policies for them. On the other hand, you have a fundamental moral hazard issue, where you're seeking to punish southern states by reducing their representation, the proportion of their representation rather, because they listen to and implemented population control better than the north. I think the southern states are doing more than their fair share for the country. If you look at every 1 rupee that Tamil Nadu gives the center, it gets back 29 paisa. On the other hand, Uttar Pradesh gets back 2 rupees 73 paisa. Bihar gets back 7 rupees. 18% of the country's population is in the south, but we contribute 35% of the country's GDP. So any attempt to reduce the seats, or rather the proportion also, I would say, of the representation from the south in parliament would itself be a historic injustice.
But Mohan, as per your leader's slogan, the one that Rahul Gandhi coined, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq,
slogan
means that slogan, lesser the population, lesser the seats, right?
Zaka, that slogan, taking a slogan out of context and applying it to another context doesn't make it valid. I mean, that slogan is particularly applying to the OBC issue, applying to proper representation of communities that have been oppressed, and talking about representation in government appointments where there is an interface with the citizen where discrimination occurs. We're not talking about applying that to everything.
Okay.
And in terms of proportional population, let me also say that this isn't an issue that's new. The 15th Finance Commission already chose to reset the date to 2001, and there was massive pushback for which they came up with in the formula where you would have a more weighted approach to deciding how the horizontal devolution of funds takes place. They took a 12.5% weightage for demographic, 45% for income distance, 15% for population area. So they took a combination of things. And I think that's how, if and when delimitation happens, it will happen so that it's fair to everyone in the country.
Ajay Alok of the BJP, the Congress is saying that the Prime Minister has conflated two separate and different issues. One is about social justice when it comes to, historically disadvantaged communities, socially backward communities. The other is about southern states who have implemented population control well, but you're going to punish them with delimitation, fewer seats for them, and states like UP and Bihar, which did not implement population control well, they are going to be rewarded. So they're saying it's two separate issues, and the BJP is deliberately conflating both of them. How do you respond?
I have heard this word, matter of convenience. And it is frequently used in politics. Now I see how it is being practiced in politics. Just yesterday, Mr. Rahul Gandhi said, Jitni Abadi Utna Haq. About Bihar, caste survey, he said that Bihar has 85% OBCs. I want OBCs counted in every state. Now, when this delimitation comes, they are taking a U-turn. So this is called a absolute matter of convenience for them. Like how conveniently he becomes Janayudhari Brahman, and how conveniently he says that Congress to Musalmanon ki party hai. By looking at the figures right now, and by looking at the article, and by saving at the constitution, the delimitation has to happen. Now what we have to think, that how the represented proportion should come out, which comes for everyone's favor. Like UP, Bihar, if they have not done up a good population control, that's why Vajpayee ji in 2004 decided to freeze it. But how long can you freeze it? We have been freezing it for the last 40 years. In 76 it was freezed, in 2004 it was freezed. So it cannot be freezed. That chapter is over. So it literally, this is the time to ponder how to go about it. But by saying all this, jitni abadi utna haq, and just to catapult some kind of a vote bank, this is not going to happen. And so Mr. Rahul Gandhi, all these words are just bouncing back on him, and so they are getting rattled. All the thing is this.
Okay, I want to, now I have the data, and this is as per an Indian Express report. This is, like I said, I'm not vouching for this data. This is what they have come up with, the calculation. If and when delimitation happens, as and when in 2026, as per the current population, the number of seats that Uttar Pradesh has, for example, is 80. It's the biggest state, of course. The projected seats in 2026, based on today's population, would be 94. So that's an increase of 14 seats. In Bihar, the state that Ajay Alok comes from, the current seats are 40. As per the current population, it would go up to 51. That's an increase of 14 seats. Now, if you were to look at Rajasthan, currently it has 25 seats. It would get 7 more seats as per the delimitation of 2026. So which means 32 seats as opposed to 25 right now. Madhya Pradesh, which has 29 right now, will get 5 more seats. It'll go up to 34. So most of the North Indian states will be gainers in the delimitation exercise. The biggest losers would be the southern states. Tamil Nadu, for example, right now has 39 seats. It would go down by 9 seats to 30 if delimitation were to happen. The state of Kerala, Rahul Gandhi is an MP from the state of Kerala. It has 20 seats right now. It will go down to 14, a decrease of 6. Karnataka, 28 seats that it has currently. It will go down by 2 to 26. And Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, the entire block, currently Andhra has 25, Telangana has 17. That's 42 seats. That will again come down by 7 to 35 seats. So net, the biggest losers would be the southern states. The biggest gainers would be the northern states. But that is not the complete picture. Let me go across to P. Gandhi and to Nalin Mehta after that. P. Gandhi, the point is that, when Congress leaders, and this has been backed by DMK leaders and other India Alliance members as well, that representation should be proportional to the population. You have said this in the case of caste census. I know that there is a chorus in Tamil Nadu also for the caste census to be carried out. So if representation is going to be as per the population, as a proportion of the population, then you should apply that for delimitation as well. After all, that was the principle that was agreed in 1977 when it was frozen, that the Lok Sabha strength would have to be approximately 1 representative for less than 10 lakh people. Now, you are changing that on your head, saying that, for one instance, we can have jitni abadi utna haq when it comes to social justice, but we cannot have that when it comes to delimitation. Isn't that double standards?
No, Saka, that is entirely a different issue. Here, I would say that this issue is a complex one. But one man, one vote, and one value forms the basis of any democracy. We have no doubt about it. So anyone relying upon the basic principle will tend to say that delimitation on the basis of census, that is population, is the way forward, and that is true in normal democracies. But when it comes to the Indian context, there exist many fault lines for this principle because our democracy is the most complex one in the world because of the structure of the independent India. See, independent India is not formed from a single unit. 565 princely states and 3 British presidencies joined together to form the Indian Union. All these units are different with diverse culture, ethnicity, and language. That is why they are later reorganized in the form of states on the basis of language through States Reorganization Act in 1949. See, further, what has happened is the different states performed differentially. There is some states fared better than some states. States like, for example, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, aggressively implemented family planning, and controlled the population, which resulted in higher growth in all sectors, as controlling population resulted in equitable distribution of services and goods to people as compared to the large populated states. Therefore, in all indices from education, health, law and order, southern states particularly like Tamil Nadu and Kerala fared better than UP and Bihar. Moreover, as my fellow panelists said right now, we are the maximum contributors to the union in terms of taxation. For every 1 rupee paid by Tamil Nadu, we receive only 29 paise back, and Kerala likewise it is 57 paise back. So giving more in terms of taxation, whereas getting less representation, this will only exacerbate the mistrust already which
No, but
state
Mr. Gandhi, what then is the solution? The basic problem is this, that in Tamil Nadu, for example, after delimitation, one member of parliament will be representing something like 4 or 5 lakh people. In Uttar Pradesh, one member of parliament, as per your suggestion, if delimitation were to be frozen, one member of parliament will be representing 15 lakh people. You cannot have, a 1:3 ratio for the same one member of parliament. As you said, if the principle is one man, one vote, you can't have one man representing 15 lakh people in one state and one MP representing 5 lakh people in another state.
Fully agree. The only solution which we can foresee is to follow the US model. Here, the governance is divided. The governance of the legislative powers are divided between the union list, state list, and concurrent list. Whereas the union list has got 97 subjects, the maximum subjects in the union list, and the state list has got 61 subjects, and the concurrent list has got 52 subjects. The only resolution here is like in US, the maximum power should be devolved to the states. That means maximum subjects from the union list should be transferred back to the states, and the union should hold only 2 or 3 powers like external affairs, defense, post and telegraph, and railways.
No, one sec. That's almost like you were saying how it was with Jammu and Kashmir and the Indian Union before abrogation of Article 370. But I'm not sure that I don't think that is the idea of the Union of India. Ajay, look, very quick rebuttal. Nalin is also waiting very patiently. Mr. Gandhi saying that ultimately the union government should just control the external sort of factors, external affairs, finance maybe, defense, etc. The rest of it should be devolved to states.
This is the breaking news for you, Jaka. Because what he suggests, this is the breaking news for you, because what DMK is suggesting, that India should go on the presidential form of government then. Like what the US
I'm not
has.
talking about presidential
Again,
form
it's a
of
matter
government.
of convenience.
So let's be very clear.
That's what you said. That's what you said. Let's have US form of government.
Why?
You just want to import something from the US government and something for your convenience. Is that how the constitution of the country runs?
Maximum powers are given to the states. I'm not talking about
I
presidential
do understand.
form of government.
But when you adopt, but when you do adopt something, you adopt
You're not getting the
something.
point.
You don't adopt
what
it in
I'm
bits
trying
and
to say
chips.
is, you cannot hold on
I'm just getting your point. Your point is your matter of convenience.
Because
that's what
I
I'm
fully
saying.
agree that the people should be represented. But in the Indian context, if you go by that principle,
the people,
and if you are giving more powers to the union, then states will be affected, because states are the entities here. India Article 1.
What I'm saying, you cannot have
Union
your
of
way. There has to be, you have to follow the Constitution of India. Like what
Constitution.
Zaka
Are you
said,
following the Constitution?
maybe
You are going for
representing
the
50 lakhs or 20 lakhs.
Yeah,
Cannot be compared to MP representing
let
4 or
Ajay
5
Alok make his
lakhs.
point. I'll come back to you. Mr. Gandhi, please yield. Please yield. Yeah, let Ajay Alok make his point. Yeah, Ajay Alok.
Zaka, you cannot take bits and chips from one place and bits and chips from other's place. We have our Indian constitution and we have to follow that. We have to abide by that. You cannot have your convenience. For his convenience, he's saying let's adopt from the US constitution and let's give power to the state. But when we are going to adopt the US constitution, then why we shouldn't adopt the presidential form of government? Then he will have a problem. So you cannot have your convenience. Rahul Gandhi will say, jiski abadi utna haq, but when it comes to delimitation, he never thought of it that what will happen to South. So it's just a matter of convenient politics for them. They are not thinking in terms of constitution. They are not thinking in terms of how to go about it. Now they are rattled and they are just trapped in their own net.
So let me ask Nalin Mehta this, and this is one second. Let me go to Nalin Mehta, please. Nalin, the other thread, and I referred to this at the top of the show as well. What is happening in the states that are going to polls now, in MP, for example? This is a classic example, where Congress leaders, particularly OBC Congress leaders, are now demanding a greater share. And the Congress, and you know this as a pollster, the Congress has never been known as an OBC party. In fact, Mandal in the 90s, along with, of course, the Ram Janmabhoomi movement, was really what decimated the Congress in northern India. Now, is this Rahul Gandhi's way of reinventing the Congress as an OBC party? Will that necessarily work? Because you're not just taking on the BJP, which is now, far from a Brahmin Banya party, it's an OBC and Dalit party. You're also taking on the Hindi heartland parties. You're taking on the Samajwadi Party, the RJD, etc., which are, in their true right, the OBC parties of North India. Can the Congress do this? I mean, is this a reinvention? Because you are seeing, I wouldn't call it a rebellion, but certainly many OBC leaders in the Congress are saying when it comes to ticket distribution, there has to be a far greater representation to OBCs, as Rahul Gandhi himself has said.
No, you're absolutely right, Zaka. And I think what Rahul Gandhi has done is that he's reversed years of Congress policy by batting for the on behalf of the OBCs in the manner that he has done. What that has done is that, I think the Congress was trying to there are multiple axes in Indian politics, as you know. I think the Congress used the axis of caste to break open the axis of Hindu unity, as well as the fact that the OBCs had largely moved towards the BJP in the last 4-5 years. What the Prime Minister has done is that he's fighting it on three other axes, by raising the class factor on the poor, by raising the factor of religion, by saying who's the biggest in terms of minority or majority, and also on the factor of region, about the north-south divide. I think 2 points arise here. One, the opposition thought that it's got a new issue leading up to 2024, and it puts the BJP on the back foot. At least that was the aim of the opposition gambit, because it can't be seen to be either opposing or the caste census. What this has actually done is that it's given the Prime Minister and the BJP an opportunity to put to go on the offensive again, and to raise all of the issues that the Prime Minister has now raised. The Congress, in fact, your network today has carried a story that in Madhya Pradesh, the Congress is struggling to get that many OBC candidates. There aren't that many OBC candidates necessarily who can win, and there is a fair bit of discomfort at multiple levels of the Congress at this gambit.
Okay, so Mohan Kumaramangalam, this reinvention, if that is the idea, I don't know if that is the idea, but the reinvention of the Congress as an OBC party will also hit the hurdle that on the one hand, you're accusing the BJP of being anti-OBC, but their biggest leader is an OBC. Whereas in the Congress, I can't think of big OBC leaders that you have. Yes, Mr. Baghel is, Mr. Gehlot is, but they are state leaders. In your national leadership, who is your OBC face? You're on mute, Mohan. You have to unmute, please.
I apologize.
Yeah.
So I was saying that, yes, so you talked about the leaders whose names I was saying at the same time when I was on mute, but I was saying that increasingly you'll see as state leadership matures, them moving to the center. You may be right. I think the Congress inward also is doing a lot of reform. We're getting more and more OBC and Dalit leaders to the fore. You'll see that transformation. But this isn't an argument about whether Congress as an organization has enough OBCs in our party or not in leadership positions. It's a question of whether we have enough members of the OBC community in positions of government, because that is where caste discrimination occurs in that interface. And when Mr. Gandhi said Jitni Abadi Utni Haq, when he was talking about that, he was talking about that particular notion. Now, Zaka, there are a bunch of other things. I'll maybe try and paraphrase what my friend Mr. Gandhi said from the DMK, because he's referred to the US system. But I think what he was trying to say was that the more you delegate administrative powers to the state, the less it will matter if it's 10 lakhs or 5 lakhs that a member of parliament is representing, because his domain of control, or rather the amount of interface that he needs with his electorate, will not be as severe, because a lot will be delegated to the state. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, because that was lost in the conversation when Mr. Alok went on his US presidential trip. The other thing I'll say is that, and I don't know why you didn't bring this to the fore, Zaka, is that Mr. Modi said in his speech that the South will lose 100 seats. So either your math is wrong, or Mr. Modi is back to his usual politics of fear-mongering, which he does so well. I mean, I know that Piyush Goyal said maths didn't help Einstein discover gravity, but surely maths can help us restore some sanity. Altogether, the South has 124 seats. How are we going to lose 100? Secondly, nobody's going to lose any seats. If the seats were frozen in 2001 in Mr. Vajpayee's term, and there have been a number of studies that say that, including I think one by Milind Vaishnav for the Carnegie Endowment, which says that if we make sure that none of the parties lose any seats, we'll have to increase our number of parliament seats to 848. That still won't solve the problem we're talking about now, because there is such a healthy polarization and distrust between North and South, mostly created by the BJP, by forcing legislation such as NEET that have been protested against ad nauseum in states like Tamil Nadu, or by continuing to perpetuate Hindi, Hindu, Hindutva, that kind of culture and monoculturic values across the country, that there is such a big distrust that proportionality becomes one of the most important things, which is that if you now suddenly have a larger proportion of MPs, then your voting power is now shifted towards the North, and any legislation that the North would want and the South would oppose would get passed anyway.
But that proportionality principle back in 1976 was based, when it was frozen, was based on population. So you can't have proportionality when it comes to South and North, but not having proportionality when it comes to population. But anyway, I think Nalin wanted to make a quick rebuttal. I'll come back to Ajay Alok after that. Yeah, Nalin.
I wanted to make the point, Zaka, that what Rahul Gandhi has done is that he's opened up a Pandora's box. The thing is that once you open this up, you don't know where it's going to end up, because if you take the logic by its of this Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, that means that you'll have to remove also at some point the 50% ceiling on reservations, which the Supreme Court has put in the Indira Sahni case. Now, are you going to be ready for that? It also means that, I think the Prime Minister is absolutely right. The logic then applies to other domains as well, whether it's region or caste or other things. So I think this is a big Pandora's box, and you really don't want to open up a new axis of social strife by opening this up.
No, so if that is indeed the direction in which this is moving, Ajay Alok, that opposition states will now start saying, why are we having this 50% cap? Remove the 50% cap. Let's breach the 50% cap. Is that something that the BJP is okay with?
See, BJP has been okay with this, but we have a structured way to do things. Like EWS was also brought by UPA, but the Supreme Court rejected it. Now, when we got it in such a manner that the court had to accept it. So there is a way of doing things. Just by shouting OBC, OBC, OBC doesn't mean that you have done something for OBC. Now, today at your program, I declare as an official spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party that BJP comes to power and OBC will be the Prime Minister. There is no doubt about it. Whether we come by power, absolute majority, or how come, our Prime Minister will be OBC. Can Mr. Kumaramangalam say that on your show? That his Prime Minister is going to be OBC? He will not. Just ask him if he can say that. So this is the hypocrisy. They just say because it's a convenient politics for them. They are never serious with their doings and their actions. As far as polarization goes, who went to Wayanad? And who said that South people are more cultured and more decent, and their approach of working is different than what we see in the North? Don't laugh. Come on. If you have the courage, say that your Prime Minister candidate will be from OBC. The OBC of this country wants to hear from Congress.
Mohan, final word, 10 seconds, I got to wrap up. Yeah.
This is a comical assertion. Because Mr. Modi is an OBC and there is this Prime Minister candidate, he can say that. We haven't decided on who's going to be the Prime Ministerial candidate, and if at all, we'll have one before the elections. So this is sort of a rhetorical question. There's nothing to respond to here.
I'll tell you why it's a realistic question that you will be confronted with. Though you have to declare a face, because there's going to be Mr. Modi's face larger than life.
No. We don't
in every election rally, this will be asked of the India Alliance, Modi versus who?
I'm sure you will ask the question.
No, not me. I mean, the BJP will ask this, right? It's going to be Modi versus who? That's a question you will be asked.
I think the public today is. I think the public today is at that point where they're saying anybody but Modi.
The second thing is when you are championing Jitni Abadi Utna Haq, the cause of the OBCs, surely the people of India would expect you to project an OBC face.
Zaka, this is above my pay grade to tell you that what the India alliance, if at all, will
Again trapped.
project a face. This is hardly trapped. I think Mr.
Again
Ajay
trapped.
Alok is posing as something which is a bit of a
But
joke,
Zaka,
which
it's
is that he
also
already
about
has a
the,
prime minister who
the point-
just happens to belong to an OBC community.
Okay.
How can I, for the India alliance, make an assertion that any particular person is going to be our prime minister candidate? I can't even make an assertion that we have a candidate
Okay.
yet.
All right, let's leave it at that. We'll see how the story plays out, because I think these are very, very important, perhaps even seismic changes that will happen to the landscape of our polity. We haven't got to that bridge yet. It's going to be in 2026, but it is something that we need to contemplate and figure out how best to take along everyone, whether it's north or south, whether it's more populous states or less populous ones, because the idea of proportional representation should be fundamental and central in the way in which our power structures are organized and our power is distributed and devolved. But we'll move on now